Good morning, Philadelphia and beyond. Welcome into the PHLY Phillies podcast, playoff week edition. And as our caption and title says there, yes, the waiting is the hardest part. Renee, I feel like I've been waiting for Tuesday for like 2.5 weeks now, and we're not that far away, and it still feels so far away. But it is Red October. It's exciting as hell. I can't wait to get in the stadium, feel that atmosphere again, and hopefully watch the Phillies take on the Miami Marlins in a pressure-free, feet-up kind of way, but we all know that's not reality.
Oh, yeah. Welcome to you guys joining in. Yes, fry the fish. It's exciting because we've been talking about what will the matchup be. Red October's around the corner. Well, the calendar is already past October, which in itself is insane, but it's wild that we are done the regular season officially and headed into the playoffs, and I could not be more excited, especially since we're going to be able to be at the ballpark to watch playoff baseball in Philly.
Yeah, and stay tuned. You can head to allphly.com, PHLY_sports, PHLY_Phillies. We're going to be giving away tickets to Game 2, which we're so excited for. Because that means we get to meet some of you awesome people, and Tyreek and Rick and Mickey and Casper the Ghost and Mopar and all you nut jobs in the chat. We love you guys. So we're going to be giving away a pair of tickets to Wednesday's game, which is awesome. We're going to be having a tailgate in where else but the Jetro lot, the most Philadelphia lot in the world. And it's going to be an awesome time this week. It's so exciting. But yes, it is official. The Miami Marlins are coming into South Philadelphia, and I hate to be the bearer of reality. This is a tough series.
It is.
This is who I didn't want. I much preferred the Arizona Diamondbacks personally. Now they get the pleasure of going to Milwaukee and taking on the Brewers. Anytime you get a divisional opponent that knows you as well as the Marlins know the Phillies, it always makes my butt get a little tight.
Ew.
Yeah, well, that's my mastering of the English language there, Renee. It's just they know the Phillies really well.
Help.
They took the season series this year from them, 7 games to 6 games, so they know the Phillies well. And the other problem, which we'll dive into here a little bit more, is they have a lot of left-handed pitchers, both in the rotation and the bullpen. And the Phillies are a lefty-dominant team, so. This is not going to be easy. You do have the advantage of Citizens Bank Park and the best home field advantage in baseball. But your thoughts on the Marlins coming to town here as opposed to the Diamondbacks?
Well, I actually, since I was flying in from Florida this morning, was on a flight with some Marlins fans. And I was like... And I overheard the one guy was so loud and like, oh, my team's going in the playoffs. I'm flying to go watch my team. And the people in the airport had no idea who he was talking about because elsewhere in the world, they don't care about their teams, especially in somewhere in Miami, Fort Lauderdale area. They're not paying attention. If you were to talk about my team in a Philly airport, everyone knows who you're talking about. So I was like, haha, typical. But it was annoying. I'm like, oh, great. Here we go. You guys are coming to town. But look, it's not the ideal matchup. As we talked about, the Marlins have been a team that the Phillies have struggled with in the regular season. But what I love is we're not in the regular season anymore.
No, we're not.
Although they took the season series, the most important games are the next two, winning those two, being at home, more on the line. I really feel like the Phillies have taken the last couple of series to fine-tune some things. So I'm feeling extremely optimistic heading into the playoffs because being at home and being with the bullpen, having been in a better place.
Yeah.
Hitting looks great. We've seen adjustments down the stretch, so I'm super optimistic and excited about it. I'm not even worried about what happened in the regular season.
They're a fraud fan base, and they've had kind of bad ownership where they always develop good young players and then sell them off constantly.
Yeah.
My cousin John has a thing where he's trying to get to every major league ballpark in the country, so he picks one stadium a year to go to, and he went to the Marlins series 2 weekends ago. and said the place was like empty, and he got tickets out on the corner. And this was a team that caught fire at the end of the season. Won 5 of their last 6 games, where the Diamondbacks kind of squandered the end of their year. It's not the most intimidating fan base in the world when their stadium is empty all the time. But unfortunately, that doesn't translate to the roster they have. They do have Luis Ariz a little banged up. He did say he's going to play. But this is a pesky team. And, I saw somebody in the chat there. Ryan says the Marlins are a threat. Rick says, good point about the left-handed pitcher. And Mickey says, they have 46 total fans. So, they are a little bit of a headache. Any divisional opponent is a headache. You saw it yesterday with the Eagles and Commanders game in D.C. Commanders might not be the best team in the world, but it's that divisional familiarity with one another that just, look, I think the Phillies are going to win. But I don't want to disrespect the Marlins because they're a pain in the ass. Yeah,
well, on the side of the fans point that you're making, that area is a lot of transplants. Like, I was actually walking the beach and stumbled onto Eagles fans and found a whole Philadelphia Eagles bar in Florida.
Of course.
And there was like one Dolphins fan in the bar actually watching the Dolphins get beat up by the Bills. But I'm like, wow, everywhere you go, you find Eagles fans. You can't say the same about any Miami sports fans. And even like the one that was being loud and obnoxious in the airport was a Jets fan and a Marlins fan. I'm like, this is what you get with these other cities. We're not used to that. If you're a Philly sports fan, you're a fan of all the Philly sports teams. But I agree with you on the playing side that it's absolutely not going to be a cakewalk. And we knew regardless who the Phillies played against in the wild card round, it was not going to be easy. The Cubs, the Diamondbacks, the Marlins, actually the Cubs and the Diamondbacks mostly just could not win games down the stretch and were struggling to get results. And the Marlins being able to get their first postseason appearance in 20 years, 4 times in their entire club's history that they've made it to the playoffs. 2 World
Series out of those 4 appearances somehow.
But this is absolutely a team you cannot take lightly, and we have seen the matchup be a problem for the Phillies. That's what, as you talk about the pitching side, that's what's been a really annoying aspect about Miami is that they're that like annoying team that against other opponents maybe doesn't do as well, and then against the Phillies,
they play
at a whole different level that they always rise to the occasion against the Phillies. And come postseason time where it's anybody's game, that's what makes it absolutely a little bit more nerve-wracking. Yeah,
and the chat's fired up about it. Casper says they give up runs.
Yes,
I love a divisional matchup to get ready for the Braves. I'm not going to speak ahead to the Braves yet because I don't want to do that. I want to get a feel for game 1. But Spiral Out says, look, the run differential between these teams is huge. The Marlins are a minus 54 on the year. Phillies are a plus 81. And there's no doubt that the Phillies have a much superior offensive lineup than the Marlins do. The Marlins just have, I always call them just a bunch of ball players. Like a bunch of guys that might not make all-star teams. But, Derek Jeter and that staff down there has put together a good, pesky group of baseball players. And, they're not going to be on SportsCenter every night, but they can, give you those tough at-bats and grind down. And, look, we talked about the home field advantage of Citizens Bank Park. Well, according to Elias Sports Bureau, which, God, I want a membership to that because that would just be a lot of fun, teams with 30 or more playoff games at home, the Phillies have a 66% win percentage, which is the best in baseball. Number 2 is Shea Stadium for the Mets, but they don't play in the playoffs.
They don't know what it's like to play playoff baseball.
And that was Shea Stadium, not even in shitty field. So Citizens Bank Park continues to be the best home field advantage in baseball. And look, we all got drunk literally and figuratively on Red October last year. And I can sense the itchiness to get back in that stadium and let those Marlins know where they're playing. And, we've heard the Phillies talk about it all year, and Trey Turner as part of the reason why he signed here. Bryce Harper said on the night that they won or they clinched the playoff spot that Citizens Bank Park was only at a 4 out of 10. Well, it's going to be 10 out of 10 tomorrow. That place is going to be intimidating. It's going to be jumping, and I can't wait to see it and feel it and just be in there. So that is a huge advantage in this series. Us, the fans, and you sickos in the chat here, we are a big advantage.
Nut job sickos. I love how you're these are our friends.
Yeah, I say that in an endearing, loving kind
You're one of those
way.
friends.
Yeah.
Okay. But the other part of this is when we're talking about playoffs and just the pressure that the playoffs bring everyone's not built for the postseason. It's a whole different mental game, And when you look at, I know in the chat somebody was mentioning the Marlins didn't make the playoffs in the COVID season, but in the full actual season, this is their first time in 20 seasons. And coming into Red October, seeing even the way they were both celebrating, like for the Marlins, it was like no goggles in the clubhouse. We want to feel the burn. This is something we want you to feel and remember years from now. Whereas the Phillies like, yeah, we were here last year. We're going to celebrate, of course. We're going to go all out. We're going to then go win the hangover game afterwards as well. But we have been here before. And I think even that aspect of having that World Series run, as much as we have talked about it, it really does pay off come this part of the season when you understand the game within the game. So, yeah, I agree. Like, it's without a doubt a tough matchup, but I'm feeling like the Phillies have really, between last year's experiences and even the final weeks, have been moving in a direction that we can feel better about Aaron Nola, Zach Wheeler. We can feel better about Jose Alvarado. It's the bullpen has been our biggest area of concern. And so that's why we're not looking ahead to Atlanta. We've got to take care of business, control what we can control, which is game 1 on Tuesday, start there, and then game 2 on Wednesday. And hopefully we don't even need a game 3 because the Phillies are closing out.
Yeah, I don't know if my anxiety and blood pressure can take a game 3 because, I don't. We talked about it last week or the week before. Playoff baseball does something to me that the other sports don't. I don't know if it's because it's so pitch to pitch and like at any moment, obviously at any moment a game can change, but in the NBA, NHL, and even the NFL, it's more like you kind of see it coming, like the momentum kind of develops. In baseball, it can just come out of nowhere and like one strikeout. I think of Brett Meyer, CC Sabathia, like stuff like that can just change everything like that. So something about baseball playoffs really has me anxious and pacing and on the edge of my seat. It's exhilarating when it goes well for you, but it's torturous when it doesn't go well for you. So I'm going to be an emotional roller coaster this week. So I'm just giving you and some of the chat people in here a heads up on that, because
when you see Jamie at Citizens Bank Park Tuesday and Wednesday.
Yeah, I might be pacing in the aisle.
He's pacing back and forth.
I might have to go do a lap around the stadium.
Yeah, exactly. Although you're not wearing your flip-flops, as you've clarified. But
because of the pea shrapnel, yes.
Yeah. But yeah, we've got Rick Asango, Ryan Kirkland's going to be Phil's ace in the hole. Look, you guys are so... Our big
Captain
happy
Kirk,
freaky
Mickey.
family at Spiral says you guys are so swaggy in the chat. Love it. You're very caught up on all the lingo. But it is very intimidating because I feel like with the way between the bullpen and the batting order, it's like you just never know. You just never know. And in other sports, it's the same players typically on the field, on the court together, and you're kind of getting a vibe of what that momentum's like. But in the bullpen, you can have a pitcher take the mound and the entire momentum change, or a batter's up and everything has, you get a home run and now the entire game opens up. So it is very unpredictable. I feel that if you're pacing, don't worry.
Yeah.
Go pace away.
You might have to drink an extra beer just to calm my nerves a little bit.
For sure. But again, you guys, that's where you can join us for the fun and be a part of all the action of even seeing the unfiltered side of how we watch the games too.
Yeah, and if you're curious what when we'll be broadcasting this week, we're going to be doing some pre and post game work for each game. So, we're going to be tying down those times here after the show today. We are going to have a tailgate in the Jetro lot on Wednesday. Hope to meet some of you fine folks.
Hopefully you guys are going to be there also. I see.
Awesome.
I know you guys have been commenting about it, but hopefully you're going to be there. Let us know. Tyler and Jamie let you know where we were sitting. I was saying to leave it a surprise and a secret, so it was like a Where's Waldo. Oh, good. Maybe they did too. I'm thinking like a Where's Waldo. You've got to find us at Citizens Bank Park. We know you know where we'll be at the tailgate, but find us in the ballpark.
Yeah, so we'll give you some information after the show today on our Twitter account at PHLY_Phillies. It's going to be real simple. We basically just want you to follow our Twitter account and subscribe to the podcast, and one lucky person is going to be able to attend the game with a friend or family member. And I always love that. Like, if you won a pair of tickets to the game and you had one extra seat, who's that ticket going to, Renee?
Oh.
Well, I'm putting you on the spot.
Because
if I didn't take my wife, she might leave me. So, like, I'm kind of locked into that.
And that's for, like, any game.
Phillies is her number one. Like,
yeah.
she's a Phillies girl, and Julia, a friend of ours, like, same. Like, Phillies are number one. So if I didn't take her, she would probably kill me. Who's Renee's ticket going to if you had to make that choice? It's a real tough one.
Oh, it is tough. So I think I typically end up taking one of my close friends.
Okay, not
because
family.
My family, the problem is like, how do I just pick one person? Like,
Yeah.
I'm close with all my siblings. I'm close with both my parents.
Yeah.
It's hard to just pick one. So unless we're like all going, I can't do that. I don't want to create tension.
Couldn't you just skip the sisters and brother and go right to dad or mom?
I could. I've done that
Get some
actually.
brownie
I've been
points with the parents?
I remember going to a game with my brother. I've gone to a game with each person in my family, and
Okay.
it's tough. You kind of try to rotate, but
It is
really hard. There's 4 of us. I have 3 siblings. Both my parents were all sports junkies, so it's like, how do you pick one? You just pull those. And then there's my 5-year-old nephew who's all into everything too.
Can't waste a playoff ticket on the 5-year-old.
I mean,
Sorry, buddy. Actually, I shouldn't say that.
You should not say that.
The kid yesterday went viral at the Eagles game.
If I bring exactly. Yeah. Hey, and who knows? In fact, you should be bringing a kid, because now if a helmet gets tossed in the crowd or anything, you're more likely to get something.
Here's
People
why
like
you don't
the
bring the kids. The start times. Let's talk about it.
Oh, it's so late.
I feel like, let me preface this. I know I'm an old man yelling at the clouds and nobody cares. But the 8 o'clock start time for all 3 games, I don't know how you feel about it. We'll get your opinion in a second. I personally hate it. I love day baseball and day beers and people playing hooky and like cutting out of work and school or whatever you got to do to make it happen. And not to mention getting home at a decent hour, and not to mention the ability for my kids who love the Phillies now to watch the game. So the 8 o'clock game sucks for kids. Because most of them can't watch the full game. 2, selfishly, we'll probably be doing the post-game show at like 11:30 or to 12:30 at night. So my sleep is affected. So I personally hate the 8 o'clock games. I know a lot of people said, well, for us normal 9 to 5ers, it's actually beneficial.
Is it though?
Some people were saying, my kids' sports leagues are at 6, so I can still get home and watch the game. What are Renee Washington's thoughts on the 8 o'clock start time? And if you're in the chat, let us know. Are you pro 8 o'clock or anti 8 o'clock? Because I'm Grandpa Simpson yelling at the clouds here.
First of all, I love the fact that people are volunteering themselves to come with me to the game. You're only making my job more difficult to have to pick someone. It's not easy to pick someone. And yes, the porter potties and I'll be ready for them. But
you know what to do now.
I know what to do now, guys. I know how to act in a porter potty.
Bring sanitizer with you.
Listen, the 8 o'clock start time does not help anyone. There's several issues here.
All right,
for the
good.
9 to 5ers, if you're going to an 8 o'clock game or even just watching it from home, you got to be up the next morning. And you can't really enjoy watching. Versus if it was like an earlier game, maybe you're leaving work a little bit early. You can start, as you used to talk about, start drinking early. Now you're in bed, so you can get up the next day.
Sunshine and baseball,
and
it just makes sense.
And the warmth and the sunshine and everybody with their, Phillies gear on and... Yeah,
so some people,
earlier
I'm
time.
actually surprised. More people say it stinks than not. Mike Bishop said 8 o'clock
I'd even rather
stinks.
at 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
8 o'clock is
It's a shame
so
that
late.
there isn't a West Coast team that would have taken the 8 o'clock spot from the Phillies. But this is kind of like the Eagles in prime time so much this year. When you're the big draw and the big ticket, they want to put you in the prime time.
Those are good problems to have.
Mopar says pro 8 p.m., which means pregame drinks after dinner. Jamie and Renee. Patrick says happy Red October Eve. Same to you. Ches Sock, whatever that is.
Chescow X.
Chescow X says
Chescow.
love the 8 p.m. start time. 7:30 would have been great.
It is prime time.
It is prime time.
That's a good point.
You got the ESPN crew coming down here with A-Rod and all that. So it is the marquee matchup. I think ESPN knows it's a divisional series and anything can happen.
I still would take a solid 7 o'clock, though. Something about 7 versus 8, it just sounds so much later. I will also say, I'm going to challenge you, Jamie, every time. I know somebody said they can't wait to... chug a beer with you.
Oh, all right.
I think everybody should chug a beer with Jamie every time you see him.
So I'm not good. I can chug out of a pint glass, okay. Out of a can, I can. I'd rather shotgun.
Okay, so you're shotgunning beers with everybody that's going to be...
Yeah, we can do some Red October shotguns in the lot. No problem.
For every person.
Twist my arm, if you will.
Find us and you get to shotgun a beer with Jamie. I don't drink beer,
but let's
so
do
I'm
it
not
collectively as a
you.
group. I don't need like 12 different people coming and
I was
challenging me.
waiting for you to realize that's very dangerous.
Welcome to the PHLY post-game show. I'm Jamie Lynch.
Listen, the fun part is we do have a post-game show. So
Yes.
the pregame show is one thing. It's early. It's before the tailgate. The post-game show, you can't be at the ballpark and not be drinking.
Yeah.
And then you can't babysit a drink either.
Yeah,
You wanna-
everybody
you wanna
buckle
enjoy
in
it.
for a bender here.
It's playoff time. We've been waiting for this. Shotgun is. See, I'm
Yeah.
not a beer person, so I don't shotgun.
I can only chug out of a pint glass out of the. I'm not going to
Where
beat
in
Jason
Jet
Kelsey.
Show will we be?
I don't know the
Mwah.
exact details, but we will get that for you.
It'll be very obvious to find us.
You'll know
I
where
feel
we
like.
are. Sean Melody says, I love and I hate it. It helps with some work stuff, but it does make for later nights. And after a game, like a playoff baseball game, I'm ramped up. You're wired. And it's just hard to go to sleep right away, even if we weren't doing the
That's
post-game
why
show.
if it's like a 6, 7 o'clock game start, then when it's done, you can still be, maybe you're back drinking some more, celebrating, whatever it is, in the parking lot. Like when it's done, when the 8 o'clock game ends, it's time to go home and go to bed. Like at that point, it is past bedtime. So it is hard because you're wired, you're excited. The weather looks like it's going to be nice, thank goodness. Knock on wood.
This week looks
like
great.
it's set. It would be a perfect, like this right now. It's only 11:50. It feels way later in the day right now.
Should we crack a beer? Is that what you're saying? You're getting
basically,
ready?
I've been up since like 4, so to me it's like 6 in the afternoon. But honestly, you think about drinking some beer for you beer drinkers. For myself, my drinks.
Well,
of
Sean
choice.
says he'll bring some Tully to the lots for us.
There you go. There you go.
You can
You wanna
join
be able to
Sean
relax.
in a Tully toast.
Toast.
Yes, Patrick.
Some
Glynn
shandy, summer
says
shandies.
he's still hanging on to the summer shandy dreams. That a guy. Don't give up yet. Don't give in to this crap pumpkin season.
Whoa.
Yeah, I hate pumpkin beers.
Oh, ew, no. Pumpkin. I think it's weird.
I hate pumpkin
weird.
everything for the most part.
I like pumpkin pie.
I think it's overrated. Oh, that's a hot take.
Oh.
I know a lot of people love it, and I'm
Apple
sorry.
pie is definitely my go-to. Hands down. I could eat that breakfast, lunch, dinner, dessert.
I'm more pro pie than pro cake. Is that a take?
I love cake. As a cake is currently sitting in my refrigerator.
Except for that cookie cake. And ice cream cake. Anyway, let's pull out of that rabbit hole.
Before we go down that rabbit hole, I will also say I went on FOCO and purchased some new stuff.
Did you? Nice.
They've got some Take October gear. They've
do
got
have
some
some
cool
great
stuff
stuff.
there. So FOCO has you covered for all of the merchandise, collectibles, apparel. They've got the overalls. They've got the friendship bracelets. Anything you're looking to buy so that when we are meeting you in Jetro or at Citizens Bank Park, we can all be rocking our gear. And use that code PHLY for that 10% off of your order. I did use the code PHLY also as well because why not? You guys can use it and so can we. So head on over to FOCO, use that code PHLY, get 10% off because it's Red October, but it's also Take October. And I don't like the fact that everybody's rocking Take October. I thought it was our thing, and I was really excited. And then I saw every other team with a Take October shirt.
It must be from MLB then.
It is. And it's just, to me, like Red October has been our go-to postseason mantra.
Well,
and then I loved the Take October.
The team hashtag is officially shifted. It's no longer ring the bell with the bell. It's now Red October.
Make sure you use Red October.
So, on Twitter, make sure you guys are using the right hashtag.
It's Twitter official. But I was really excited. Thank you, Will. I appreciate you always. I was really excited. I liked Take October. I felt like it was a growing up from Red October that we're now going to Take October. And then as I was watching the Marlins celebrate and other teams in their clubhouse celebrating and they were wearing Take October shirts, I felt cheated on.
Yeah,
I didn't like it.
I don't want to be a part
weird.
of everybody else's party.
And you know what? I'm not going to lie. I ordered a this is the main reason I'm complaining. I ordered a Take October hoodie. Because I thought it was our thing. I thought it was special, and it's not special. Everybody else is wearing.
You got the hoodie, huh?
I got the hoodie, thinking like this is a Phillies thing, but it's not.
I do love the playoff hoodies.
It's a Major League Baseball thing, and now I have to share with other people. So I might be returning that.
Yeah, Cash for the Ghost agrees with you. I hate when everybody has the same slogan.
Yeah, it's weird. It's very weird. I mean, just keep it hashtag playoffs, whatever. Like, we don't need to all have Take October. So we're going to stick with Red October. If you're looking at a Take October shirt, you didn't hear from me, but don't buy it. Didn't hear it here first.
So yesterday, over the weekend, none of that mattered. But it was nice to see Alec Boehm get his 20th home run of the year yesterday up at Shitty Field. They raked yesterday. Brandon Martian, as my daughter calls her, It was funny. I went to my high school's homecoming football game this weekend.
Ryan was asking you about that, by the way.
Oh, yeah?
You missed it. Ryan was seeing how that went.
Shout out, Ryan. Oh, the LaSalle game? Or
Yeah, I was asking about
They won. A really good game over Calvert Hall. They won 38-34. Go LaSalle. They got the prep on Friday night at Franklin Field, though. That's probably not going to be a win. But anyway, the quarterback looks really good.
It was a nice week. Yeah.
And one of the guys at LaSalle saw my daughter, Skylar, and was like, Brandon Martian, right? Brandon Martian. So that was really cool to see. So Brandon Marsh went yard yesterday. Alec Boehm went yard. They kind of raked and they won. But this weekend didn't really mean anything at all, as long as the guys were getting some rest and getting their, you saw a combination of guys pitching yesterday. Just guys getting, those arms loose. And I heard Raul Ibanez this morning on the radio, and he was asked, like, do you as a baseball player want that day or two off in between games, or do you just kind of want to keep rolling with it? And his answer was, you just want to keep rolling with it because you're already in that habit of playing baseball every day. And he's like, yeah, it's nice to get some sore muscles, a day off here or there, but mostly you just want to get right back to it and stay in your routine. So they do have the day off today. I believe they're doing a light workout / exercise down at Citizens Bank Park. But for the most part, they're healthy entering the playoffs, which is awesome. Now, the Marlins, on the inverse of that, are a little banged up. They have won 5 of their last 6 games, but Luis Ariz, who's their best hitter, is banged up. He said he expects to play on Tuesday, unfortunately. You never wish for injury, but he was already hurt. So it's just like, yeah, I'd prefer him to miss the game.
I like to beat teams when they're at full strength.
I'll take the victory however I can get it.
No, because I don't want to give them any excuses and reasons to say.
I'm good with titles. The easiest path. I'm good with it. Yeah. And Sandy Alcantara, don't call me Alcantara, and Perez for the Marlins are going to miss this series as the two of them are dealing with injuries. Now, Alcantara had like his worst year in like 3 or 4 years, but he's still kind of that big game pitcher. So you do dodge a little bit of a bullet there. But the Marlins did, as we mentioned, they won this season series 7-6. So it comes down to Zach Wheeler opening up this series, and we'll get into some more nitty-gritty of this series. But how you feeling about Zach Wheeler entering Game 1 on the mound versus the Marlins, who he's very familiar with?
I'm thrilled. I love the fact that as we talk about the routine, Zach Wheeler's been able to work through the routine of getting the final regular season game earlier, last week actually, and then now being on schedule to start Game 1. Zach Wheeler's been very consistent, very just steady in the bullpen. I do like the fact that I'm seeing in the chat some comments with Bomers, 20 Bomers for the season, 6 players with 20 or more homers is awesome for the Phillies. Also being able to see Bryce Harper, 20 plus, of course, as well. One of those players. And the Mets, yes, as Spiralot is talking about, we can all let's just all take a moment to laugh at the Mets, who decided to show some life at the end of the regular season and win the first 2 games of the series. But I'm glad, as you mentioned, Phillies come away healthy. They're still on schedule. They were able to go deep into their rotation so that you were able to get players some rest. But I, as an athlete, do see the other side that you want rest, you want to be as healthy as you can, but you do want to stick to that routine. So I like that Wheeler and Nola, I agree with you, Mickey, are zoned in. They've got their rotation down. They've been able to get some reps in, some practices in, and are ready for now as we get into the wild card round to start and to get us started on the right foot. And that's all you could ask for. I think the Phillies are in a really great situation because unlike teams like the Marlins and others that were scrambling down the stretch to try to clinch a playoff spot, the Phillies, having clinched earlier last week, had a chance to now kind of sit back and have some more tactical decisions of just letting other guys get reps and get moments on the field, giving their usual suspects some rest, and managing how much you really had to go deep into for the batting order and for the bullpen. So for Zach Wheeler specifically, I love it. This is exactly what we wanted. We didn't want Wheeler to have to be off schedule or anything like that. It's perfect. So wheels up. I agree with you, Casper.
Yeah, Mike Bishop says if we get September Nola, we're going to be good. Mickey Durkin says Wheeler and Nola are both zoned in. Casper wheels up, 6 2/3 to 7 innings with 8 strikeouts for Wheeler tomorrow is his prediction. And yes, the guy he will be facing in Game 1 is a lefty, unfortunately. And both starters for the Marlins in games 1 and 2 are going to be left-handed pitchers, and their bullpen is left-handed dominant. So Tyler has created a little graphic here for us in Jesus Luzardo and his 2023 splits. Nobody mess with the Jesus, man. Do you know what movie?
Oh.
Nobody mess with the Jesus.
Not with Denzel Washington in it.
No, Big Lebowski.
That was my next guess.
Yeah. So in 2 starts versus the Phillies this year, he was 2-0, 12 and a third innings pitched. Pretty respectable 3.6 ERA with 14 Ks. He has been a little bit of a problem for them. But as Tyler points out here in the graphic, on the road, he's a little more human. He's better at home. 5-5 and 70 innings pitched on the road with a 4.4 ERA and 80 Ks. His last 3 starts, Tyler, you're really testing my eyesight out here. I'm sure it's easier for the YouTube people, but he's 1-0 with a 1.96 ERA. I am due for an eye doctor's appointment, so I fully admit my
that's next on
my
the list.
prescription needs a little tweaking. I'm not gonna. Old age is a bitch.
18.1 innings pitched, 1.96 ERA, 22 strikeouts.
And the concerning part is his splits lefty versus righty.
Yes.
Now, this is going to be an interesting aspect of the game because Christian Pache, Brandon Marsh, Cave, all these guys are not great versus left-handed pitching. Brandon Marsh hasn't faced a left-handed starter since August 30th. He is struggling versus left-handed pitching, and Christian Pache has just been kind of struggling offensively as well. So that left field spot becomes a serious question. Now, we all assume Bryce Harper is going to be your everyday first baseman in the playoffs. Schwarber is going to be your DH. So Matt Gelb from The Athletic wrote an interesting piece this weekend in that it got me thinking, and Tyler and I before the show talked about it. I think it's ballsy and dumb if it happens, but it's playoff baseball and weird stuff happens. They made some roster tweaks over this weekend, and Weston Wilson, 29-year-old minor league phenom this year, had a career year down in the minors. I think he broke, Tyler, am I right? I'm going off of my dumb brain here, that he broke Rhys Hoskins' home run record for the minors, I believe, this year. Had a really good year, but he's a right-handed bat, and there's the possibility, there's some chatter within the building that Weston Wilson could start the game.
Yeah.
Which to me, man, that takes some big ones by Rob Thompson and management down there to do that. He hasn't really played all year. I don't know how I feel about it. It's just throwing a guy into the fire like that. I know he's excited. It's a ballsy move.
Yeah. Well, Mickey, as you said, Weston, here we come. Look, the numbers that he had in AAA with Lehigh Valley were impressive. 31 homers, 86 RBIs across 544 plate appearances. He has played in some major league games as well, was 2 for 6 with a home run across 5 major league games in his career. So it's not a high number
it's not
a high number that you're looking at. But he is someone that has played at this level. The postseason is just such a tricky time to make decisions like that. You would have loved to see it in like how we were able to see Orion come in. You'd love to see those moves happen a little bit sooner. But I'm also on the side of why not? When it comes to the playoffs, you have to do everything you think will help win. And hope it works out, of course.
See, now, yes, I completely agree.
There's that risk. You're taking risk, but you're also taking a risk in not putting him out there and looking at Marsh and Pache.
Or Marche go 0 for 4 both games, you're going, oh, man.
And that's the thing. I think it's the tricky gamble of you already know what you're probably going to get from Marsh and Pache. Do you go with that?
Probably
or do you
not
take
great
the
at
risk
bats.
and not great at bats, or do you take the risk of someone that's
stellar defense.
Consistently been getting hits and homers at that? I don't know. It is a risk.
Yeah, I'd love to see what everybody feels about it in the chat. Are you pro Weston Wilson getting a start in the playoffs, which seems wild to me. But some of the Matt Gelb quotes he was getting from people really seem to think there's strong chatter in the building. This wasn't Matt Gelb's opinion. It seemed to be heavily considered. Now, he did have that career year.
Yeah.
Luzardo has held lefties this year to a 215, 264, 336 split line. And as we talked about, it's not just Luzardo, it's also the bullpen, which is very lefty heavy as well. So it's not like you get relief when the bullpen comes in. If you're able to get to Luzardo, it's going to be more lefties coming up. You have AJ Puck, Andrew Nardi, Steven Okrit, and one of the best closers in baseball who's left-handed as well. So it is in Tanner Scott, their closer, who's been kind of lights out this year.
Yeah.
So it is something to consider. I understand where they're coming from in it, and I wouldn't disagree if I saw it. But, man, you're losing some stellar defense with Marsh. Yeah. And I assume Pache is not really considered. It's probably between Marsh and Wilson. But at the same time, it's like, man, game 1 of the playoffs is the first start. Like, baptism by fire.
By fire.
That is an intense spot to just make your debut.
It is. And I know, Chris, in the chat, you're saying that he should not start Pache. Greg, you're saying you'd be fine with either angle. It seems like it's mixed responses and what you guys are saying in the chat. You do need to set the tone early, Patrick. I agree with that. I think the hard part is you want to set the tone early, but what does that look like? Again, it's a risk. You really don't know. And I feel like this is the tough part for a Rob Thompson, for any manager, is that you have to not only put the best guys out there, but the best guys that fit strategy of what your opponent's doing. And there's a mixture of sticking to your game plan and sticking to what Phillies baseball is all about, but then also being mindful of, as you're looking at film and footage of what the Marlins are doing, to try to put out the best combination that can, go against them.
Yeah.
So it is a tough balance because you don't want to completely throw your game plan out the window.
So the Phillies do have a big analytical department, and there is heavy influence from them when it comes to Rob Thompson and game day decisions.
Right.
So if you're just looking from an analytical aspect, granted, it's not against Major League pitching, which
that's also
that's a big qualifier.
It's a big qualifier for sure.
It's clear you would go with Weston Wilson, the right-handed batter, but baseball's weird, and there's intangibles, and there's defense, and there's speed, and there's these things.
And it's the playoffs.
Yeah, and who knows? Like, Brandon Marsh might, this team offensively has shown you that they're clutch all year. And who's to say that Brandon Marsh doesn't come up with a great at-bat and a clutch single or double in a big spot? This is a really tough decision for them to make. So it's going to be interesting to see. It's definitely something to keep an eye on. I believe it was Castro. The reason Weston Wilson wasn't up here earlier, he was down in Florida in Clearwater with some of the players who were just staying ready in case there's more call-ups. But Castro, they needed a certain date to retain his rights for next year, so they didn't call Weston up so they could have those rights over him. Baseball's weird with like the players' rights and all that stuff. So it was the long game for the Phillies. Understand why they did that, but I would have loved to have at least seen maybe a week or 10 days of Weston Wilson before just throwing him into that atmosphere.
Yeah, we'd like to see, to your question, Rick, of is Weston Wilson a decent fielder? That's part of it too. We haven't seen enough of Weston Wilson in the majors. Again, was 5 games that we've seen, and that's a long time ago. That was not this season. I can't lie to you and tell you I've been watching
Lehigh games. I can't tell you how good his fielding is.
Now that is something I know. Even Garrett Stubbs had talked about it before. The Phillies, their coaches do a great job of watching the different players that are playing with Lehigh and continuing to evaluate them as the season goes on. So we leave that to them in this scenario. But it is tough because you'd love to have seen at least a couple, like you said, a couple days, something. Yeah, like Orion at least gave us enough to go off of to feel more optimistic that if Orion's name gets to call, that, Captain Kirk's going to be ready to deliver. But I do also feel like the Phillies are in a good place just team-wise. I know we talk about how they're such a likable team. They do a really good job of being selfless and the confidence and supporting each other. And I would like to think that regardless who gets to start, they're going to, if it's not Brandon Marsh, for example, he's still going to bring the right attitude. It's not going to affect him anyway. They're all about whatever it takes to help us win. So it's the next player up mentality, and we'll see which player that is. And I don't know. It's not an easy decision at all.
And Mickey in the chat said AC/DC wrote that song Big Balls about Rob Thompson. So look, if he throws him out there, that's the definition of move. Putting him on the table. And I'm sure he has confidence. Again, he's like a 29-year-old rookie. Who knows? Maybe when we do the World Series yearbook, we look back at the Weston Wilson start as like one of those moments where it's like, wow, this guy pushed all the right buttons. Who knows? But it's something to keep an eye on for tomorrow. I'll be antsy to see that lineup tomorrow. I think gates are opening at 5:38, which, as Alex Coffey pointed out very specific time.
Extremely specific.
Like, why not just
My
call it 5:45?
goodness.
5:38. So the gates open then. I imagine
Exactly 5:38.
Yeah, I would imagine the lineup's probably out by like 4:30 or 5. That's just a guess. So I will be a little bit on edge. So we talked about that because of the Marlins, left-handed pitching dominance. Now let's take a look at the Marlins hitters versus Zach Wheeler this year. Somebody in the chat called him the fish fryer, and Zach Wheeler. Tyler, my eyes, dog doo-doo. So if you can enlarge that a little bit for me, that would be awesome.
There you go, Jamie.
There you have it. So here's the Marlins hitters for the YouTube crowd right there versus Wheeler this year. As you can see, Jazz Chisholm, I think, is a guy.
Yeah.
There's two Marlins I know I'm going to hate after this series.
Definitely Jazz.
And I think it's Jazz Chisholm and AJ Pucked in the bullpen. I think those are going to be my two hate the face guys. But you can see Luis Ariz only batted .222 versus Zach Wheeler this year with an on base of only .222, meaning he didn't walk. Slugging was only .333, so that's really encouraging to see. Josh Bell, who's their home run hitter, was able to get some power off of Wheeler there with the 3 home runs and 6 RBIs, .278 average. He mostly did the best outside of Chisholm, who is that kind of on-base guy, got on base at a .417 clip. But the rest of the lineup you look at, he held the team overall to a .250 batting average, a .289 on base, and only a .396 slugging. So it's very encouraging that he was able to keep Ariz in check because he's one of those annoying at-bat guys, kind of like Bryson Stott, where he's gonna work your pitcher and do all the things you hate to see. But everybody else, Zach Wheeler had a really good year against, and that's really encouraging to see.
Very much so. And it's the numbers that Zach Wheeler has put up have been exactly why he's the guy that we want to start game one. You talk about setting the tone. What better way than to have Zach Wheeler pitching to start off the wild card round? And as you guys are saying in the chat, this is definitely wheels up for sure.
Let's hope.
It's encouraging to see. It's exciting to see the numbers. But as we talk about it is playoff baseball. It's a totally different beast. And so we're looking forward to seeing for all of the Phillies, especially Zach Wheeler, that they can come out and bring that high level that we expect them to bring, play consistently, not have a drop-off, and that we can make sure that you're taking care of business from game one. And if you're also looking to take care of business, you can head over to the Game Time app because the Game Time app has you squared away with tickets. It is playoff time, so why not head over to the Game Time app, be able to use code PHLY, get $20 off of your purchase for any games, concerts, anything that you're looking to attend. And the Game Time app is a spot to do it. Again, that code is PHLY for $20 off. All right, we can get deeper into it now, Jamie. Obviously, we will have our pregame show tomorrow where we'll be able to dive in even more into breaking down the matchups. But overall, you're feeling good about how the Phillies have been looking. Of course, there's some question marks around, who gets the call, who gets the start. But overall, feeling good, not too stressed out over there, no gray hairs.
I just wanted to be here. It's more like a nervous excitement, just waiting for tomorrow. I'm going to wake up early tomorrow and be itching. And that's part of why the 8 o'clock almost I hate too, because it's like you have to wait longer and longer and longer. And I just love day baseball. But Tyler, our producer here, raised a really good point before the show today. And we talked about Luzardo's dominance over left-handed hitters and why Weston Wilson might get a start tomorrow. By the way, Weston in the minors versus lefties batted .325 with a .416 on base and a .609 slugging. So really good numbers for him. On the other hand, the right-handed bats, Tyler raises the point that Nick Castellanos and JT Realmuto are going to have to be pretty crucial for you because it's not like it's just one game you're getting a lefty. It's 2 games you're getting the lefty starter from the Marlins there. So those right-handed bats are going to be critical in this series. And Castellanos had a career year. He had a good end of the season. So did JT. So seeing them and their comfortability in the box right off the bat tomorrow could be a real crucial point for the Phillies. How you feeling with JT and Castellanos entering the playoffs? Are we going to be eating Scooby snacks?
I'm feeling so much better. We've got Chef Casty and we've got JT, who's playing well at home. And that 8-3 record for the Phillies in the last 11 games, a big part of that as they close out the regular season was because you had Nick Castellanos, JT Realmuto, Stubbs getting his first home run of the season. Different players that were helping contribute. And we challenged on this show, we've challenged them, and to see them, whether it's offensively getting hits and home runs, but also on the other side of the ball, making big defensive plays. Those are the types of things that are going to absolutely help the Phillies at this point of the season. That's what makes them a team that's built for the postseason, because the depth, the players like Rojas, who we haven't even talked about yet on the show, which is wild.
Yeah, he's an X factor for sure.
Johan Rojas is an X factor. There are those X factors that can definitely, in a pinch moment, make a big play. Mickey, you're saying, Cassie, his stats is your first on the team in RBIs, hits, and doubles.
Quietly a dominant year.
That's the thing. We talk about Bryce Harper. We talk about the emergence of Bryson Stott and Trey Turner, but you love that you have more. It's more than that. And that's what makes this team so dangerous, because when you look across the entire playoffs of all the teams that are in, the Phillies are one of the deeper teams.
Yeah, they are.
The batting order especially is phenomenal.
Yeah, and I heard Raul Ibanez this morning just talking about this Phillies lineup. When you have the luxury of putting a Castellanos at like 6th in the order, I mean, that's a luxury that few other teams have. And then, if JT's batting 5th, I'll be analyzing the lineup tomorrow with a microscope going over everything.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, it is a deep lineup, and it's a nasty offense, and they're clutch, which is what playoff baseball is all about.
It's not just hits; it's home runs. You look at the fact there are
second ever best season for home runs for the Phillies in their history, and it's wild to think that they lost Rhys Hoskins, a potential 30, 32, 33 home run
Alec
guy. Bohm gets
obviously
his 20 spot yesterday.
Yeah.
So, this team is nasty offensively. And, as much as we talk about Luzardo versus, lefties and all that, I'm sure he's also going, damn, this Phillies team is deep.
Oh, yeah.
And
they should be definitely more nervous and cringing than we are, because you're facing up against some heavy hitters.
And if you
literally.
if you get Rojas and Weston Wilson or Brandon Marsh to contribute a little bit at the bottom of the order, Kyle Schwarber, then he becomes kind of a cleanup hitter a little bit if those guys can get on base. So there's really no deep breaths or time off for these pitchers on the mound versus this Phillies lineup. And I feel pretty good entering this series. We're not going to talk about the next round yet, because we're not going to do that.
Like Mickey said, it's the whole damn team. And
it
Jason
is.
Kelsey voice. It is. Honestly, let's flip it. There was a time we were sitting up talking about how many players are struggling. And yes, there's still a Craig Kimbrell and different names. But when you really look across the Phillies roster, there's not many guys you can point to and say, I don't know what they're going to do.
Even Sir Anthony, who was that guy in his last 2 outings, looked a little bit better. And Kimbrell, as we talked about. But something about Kimbrell, and I don't know if it's the Hall of Fame career or just like feeding off of adrenaline, I feel like he's going to be okay. Maybe a couple days rest. He did have, a huge workload this year. He was one of the few guys that wasn't hurt back there. So he pitched a ton of innings. But I'm looking at it with Phillies goggles on, but I feel like Kimbrell's I think he's going to answer the call in the playoffs. I really do feel pretty good there. And speaking of like the rotation, the Phillies had an innings pitched and all that. The Phillies had the highest innings pitched of any staff in baseball this year. So these guys have plenty of experience under their belts. I think it was the Mariners were right behind them in terms of innings pitched. And they had the highest WAR as a staff in baseball. The next closest, F4 is real Tyler geek stuff here with baseball stuff, was 4 games worse than the Phillies when it comes to starting rotation. So this starting pitching, and I saw some people say earlier, if we get September, Nola and Wheeler, they're going to be fine. And I do think the bullpen has rounded a corner and become a strength again. And we'll see, Lorenzen and Sanchez, how they're used. If game 1's not going great, another thing to keep an eye on is, does Rob Thompson go to Ranger Suarez?
Right.
Because you saw it last year, him come out of the pen and do a great job, because then it's kind of game 3, all hands on deck, and you can kind of go Sanchez there. So there's going to be a lot to keep an eye on in game 1 and how it affects the rest of this series and we'll deal with next year's when we get to it.
There are options. Again, like you said, Ranger Suarez, Sanchez, that if Zach Wheeler or Aaron Nola is not getting the job done, that you can always call, you can make those adjustments. Looking at the pitching matchups, though, for game one, we do have, as we talk about, Zach Wheeler, Jesus Luzardo. I know, Tyler, perfect. So this is how it gets started. And that 8:08, which is why it's 5:38, because they're being exact this second. And it's Zach Wheeler versus Jesus Luzardo. And then game two, Aaron Nola is getting the start as Braxton Miller will start on the mound for those pesky, annoying Marlins. But then game three, of course, to be determined, only if necessary. But it's 808, 808, 808.
Yeah.
And that's the recipe for success, that we're starting off Zach Wheeler, Aaron Nola, and that is how we're going to be rolling. And that's exactly what we want at this point in the season.
Yeah. Tomorrow we will be doing a pregame show. We will let you know, but we're going to announce after the show how you can win tickets to game two. If you've seen the secondary market prices, you're going to want to get involved with this giveaway. So for sure, pay attention to @PHLY_Phillies. If you can like and subscribe to the YouTube channel, we always appreciate you there. And the diehard memberships are going great. I believe the T-shirts are going out very soon here. There those are. I have the Phillies themed one on the far left, as I believe you do as well. It's an awesome shirt. So those shirts are only going to grow and grow as we get off the ground and running here. So check all that stuff out. Let me rip Major League Baseball real quick here before we take a look at the entirety of Major League Baseball in the playoff picture here. Bryce Harper.
You don't want to do your DraftKings really quickly before you go into your...
Oh, I will. Let me just rip Major League Baseball first.
Okay.
Bryce Harper was fined $5,000 yesterday, the largest fine of his career, for throwing his helmet in the stands the other night, which recklessly endangered the safety of fans. He is appealing it. If you're Major League Baseball and you're sitting there and you see this little kid end up with a helmet that he signed and you have a baseball fan for life, you made that kid's baseball existence while he's on this earth. He will be a fan of the Philadelphia Phillies and your sport. And I know $5,000 is a quarter to me and you. So it's really, nothing to somebody like Bryce Harper. But I just found it to be incredibly tone deaf. I understand you don't want guys like rocketing, balls and bats and helmets in the stands, but he tossed it up in the air. Yeah. People are going to catch that. He didn't endanger shit. I just thought that was such a lame... I hope the appeal gets overturned. I just thought that was such a lame thing by baseball. It
is, because I feel like leagues try sometimes too hard to manage players and put all these rules in place because they want to control players, is what it honestly is. And when you have a play like this where Bryce Harper is frustrated, he didn't, like you said, the way he threw it was not this malicious, like you're, full speed throwing it at somebody. He just tossed it up in the air. And is it the right thing to do? No, absolutely not. It's not. You don't want to encourage that behavior, that people are just chucking equipment and things in the air. But like you said, this created a moment that was not only viral, but was such a positive moment out of a terrible situation. It went from him being ejected, he's fussing and cussing, and
how about you find Angel Hernandez for causing that moment
and racing at Angel Hernandez, and then you turn around and you have a positive moment that this 10-year-old has a moment and a memory that, well, as you mentioned, for life will never forget. So I am annoyed by the fact that we're even having this conversation, because it's like it's already bad enough that he was ejected to begin with, and now it feels like we're dragging things on and adding a fine to it. And I'm all with Bryce Harper appealing, because you know what? You've got to make a stand at some point.
Yeah.
The league, the umpires cannot continue to have such an impact on the game, make these bogus calls, and then you're just supposed to stand for it.
Yeah.
I don't mind in a moment like that. It's meaningless to, you get ejected. It is what it is, but it makes the league look like a joke. I agree with you,
the root of the
Patrick.
problem is Angel Hernandez here, not Bryce Harper throwing a helmet.
That's where we should be holding someone accountable. That's where we should be under the microscope, taking a look at the call, Angel Hernandez performance overall. But to continue to harp on Bryce is just too much. And there's no reason to continue to try to control players and want to control how they react, and control how they celebrate, and control how they get ejected, and control. It's too much. And what makes the league great is the Bryce Harpers, not the Angel Hernandezes. So let him be great. And in this moment, he was emotional, chucked his helmet, but like you said, chucked it in the air, that there's no reason to have all this. So
Hypothetical Man and Mickey and some others are saying, please tell me Angel Hernandez won't be in the playoffs.
It's not supposed to be.
He probably won't be because he's routinely graded as one of the worst umpires in baseball. So, playoff umpires are, based on grades, and you kind of have to earn it. You know where else you can earn it? That's DraftKings Sportsbook. Things are heating up in the ballpark. Every team is playing to the finish this year to make it to the playoffs. And with DraftKings Sportsbook, you won't miss a moment of the baseball action. New customers can score $200 instantly in bonus bets for betting just $5 on baseball. Plus, all customers can take a crack at a sweet parlay with DraftKings same-game parlays. String together multiple bets from a single game and your shot at a major payout. I'll probably cook together a little same-game parlay tomorrow.
Okay.
With the playoff vibes in the air. I'll see what the universe is telling me. If you're waiting download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use that code PHLY. New customers can score $200 instantly in bonus bets for betting just $5 on baseball. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook with code PHLY. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. I wasn't really
what's going
pushing
on?
for the record today. Should we start that over again?
Yeah, what are you doing? I was so ready.
I know. I
actually came into today, and one of the things I was thinking was
we even have a timer on the screen? Oh my God, I let everyone down.
Well, we came in today, I was literally Jamie has to beat 31 point
it's playoff
something.
Time. I got to play like a champion.
It's playoff time. You're messing up. The people are waiting. We're all waiting.
All right.
Terrible.
All right, here we go.
Stepping up to the bat and striking out over here.
Time. Play like a champion. No excuses.
Get your head in the game.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccp.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort. Licensee partner Golden Nugget, Lake Charles. 21 plus. Age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. See dkng.com/baseball for eligibility. Terms and responsible gaming resources. Bonus bets expire after 7 days after issuance. Eligibility and deposit restrictions apply.
It's the Ontario spot. It gets you every time.
I know. Well, this is also a new copy, so this is my first time going through it. They changed up the website on me because it's baseball specific.
Yeah,
no
we're
excuses.
disappointed. Spiral out. We're so disappointed.
Yeah. I'll be better tomorrow.
You know what? You're consistent though, because that was still around 31:09.
Okay.
That's like your time. We got to get you under 31 though.
Yeah. I mean, that's tough.
I think you can do it.
Yeah.
Just practice.
Yeah.
Practice makes perfect.
All right. As we get out of here today, Tyler has a graphic for you, YouTube people, of the playoff picture in its entirety. And here you have it. So the Arizona Diamondbacks are going to be in Milwaukee taking on the Brewers in that series. I very much like the Brewers to win that series. And that's going to be a hell of a series there if the Dodgers are hosting the Brewers. Obviously, we know Marlins, Phillies here. The winner of that gets the luxury of playing the Braves. Over in the AL, your two teams with byes, those stinking cheating Houston Astros, and the Baltimore Orioles, which honestly is one of the cooler stories in baseball this year. But your wild card series are the Texas Rangers and the Tampa Bay Rays. That should be a pretty good series. And then your Toronto Blue Jays are taking on the Minnesota Twins, and they get the luxury of going to Houston. So there is your playoff format. Really kind of a shame there wasn't a true West Coast team to take these 8 o'clock games from us. But it should be some really good series here. As you know, it's going to be a jam-packed day of baseball tomorrow, leading up to the Phillies at 8 o'clock.
Yeah, and there were some firsts for a lot of those teams that clinched, the Rangers being one of them, their first time since 2016, and that comes just a couple of years after losing 100 games. And
they spent some money to get here.
Yeah, they spent some money to get here, and it paid off. The Astros, with their 7th consecutive trip to the postseason, blah.
They're so annoying.
They're so annoying. We don't like you. Even the Marlins, as we talked about, their first time in 20 years of a full regular season, excluding that 2020 season. And then, as we know, with Arizona in general, barely got in. It seems like the Cubs and Diamondbacks were not really sure who wanted to go to the postseason. And the Diamondbacks' loss is what helped the Marlins get matched up against us Phillies for the first round. So it just was very interesting to watch how the final weekend played out of teams clinching and then teams that dropped the ball and really missed out on their first trip. Now the Diamondbacks do get their first trip to the postseason
but they
in
lost
6
4
years.
of their last
but
5.
They barely did that.
Leaking oil.
It says a lot about a team and your character when you are in the biggest pressure moments and all you have to do is win and you continuously drop results game after game. So
shout out to our CHGO people. That
can't be a great Monday over there.
It's a tough day to do a show out there.
We don't
if
know
you're
what
a Cubs
that's like.
fan.
What is that? You just the regular season's over and you're done. That's weird. I don't know we don't know what that's like. And plus the Bears. It's just not is it ever a good time to be a Chicago sports fan? I think that's one of the more frustrating areas to live in as a sports fan.
Well, the 90s were pretty good for the Bulls. And the Blackhawks beat us in the Stanley Cup.
20.
Yeah, I know. But
that's going back some time now.
I'm beginning to think I'm never going to see an NBA championship in my life. And make sure you're tuned into our PHLY Sixers squad today. It is Media Day, a.k.a. the circus is in town because James Harden has a full diaper and isn't reporting to camp right away. But Kyle and Derek are going to be out at Colorado State this week where they're holding their training camp. Colorado State, random as hell. Yeah. I think they just want people to not cover them right now because James Harden's such a baby. He has to realize that nobody really wants him right now. He's making himself a poison pill. Just play the year, make a market for yourself, and call it quits.
I was never a fan of James Harden. To be
honest.
I
do think Daryl Morey had a hand in this.
Yeah, for sure.
At the same time, dude, you have to realize nobody really wants you that bad.
There's always 3 sides to every story, and I'm not going to put all fault on James Harden, but as a professional,
the way he's handling it,
a professional and a grown ass man, yes, absolutely, it's too much. It's immature. It's giving me Kyrie vibes, and it's not something that there's just no reason to do all this. I mean, on the other side, former Sixers Jimmy Butler got a silk press for a media day. I don't know if you saw that on Twitter.
He got his what?
A silk press, his hair straightened out.
Oh, did he?
He was flat.
You know why he does this, which I actually find very funny,
is
because the picture gets used all year. So anytime they flash a graphic of him, it's going to be him. In video games, that's going to be him. All that stuff.
It just is ridiculous. But I would take those problems of Jimmy Butler showing up to media day with a silk press in Philly versus James Harden maybe not showing up to media day at all. So
check out our Sixers guys today. They'll have the latest from the circus over in Camden today. And Joel Embiid tweeting out yesterday, and Daryl Morey liking it. It's just so exhausting.
But we're happy that the rest of the teams in Philly are consistently doing well. Phillies, Eagles, Union.
Yes.
But the Sixers and Flyers, it's those Wells Fargo teams. They're just really not doing so hot over there.
And as we get out of here, 2 little baseball nuggets that I felt like we should mention. I got to pour one out for my man Gabe.
Oh, Cap.
Gabe probably needs to work on his personal relationships within those clubhouses.
And kind of admitted that afterwards. I should have done more.
He's real weird. And that's kind of the reason I liked him is I like weird. But it appears it's too weird now. And you're burning bridges everywhere you go. And the other one, which was kind of a surprise, was Mets manager Buck Showalter yesterday on the podium after the game goes, yeah, that's it for me. I'm out of here.
Is that a surprise, though?
I mean, it's the Mets, and they're a loser.
They did make the playoffs last year.
Yeah.
But then they turned around. And they do have a decent youth, and change for the future in their farm system.
But
so,
there's Showalter's seen enough.
I was going to say it, but, for the Mets, there's only so much optimism you can have.
Yeah.
That was surprising. But Gabe was, I think, a little bit more surprising because the regular season hadn't come to an end yet. There's one more series left.
Yeah.
And it's Gabe's out, and he was posting his long behind social media farewell about how much he loves the people, and his dad helped get him, experiences in the city when he was a kid, and he's all about the burgers and all this. It just was a lot going on there.
He's a strange dude, but I think he gets the most out of his teams, and he just makes these weird relationships within it. So whatever.
I don't know.
We can always laugh at the Mets and hashtag LOL Mets. But for Renee Washington, I'm Jamie Lynch. Pay attention to our Twitter account after the show here. We're going to tell you how you can win tickets to Game 2. But it's at PHLY_Phillies. You can follow our main account at PHLY_sports. Make sure you're liking this channel, subscribing, tell your friends. This is a fun place to experience Red October together. Renee and I are going to do our best. And if that means I have to shotgun 12 beers tomorrow, don't test me. I'll do it.
Whoa. Or just tell a friend and tell a friend and tell a friend so Jamie's not drunk and
or
out of
let's
control
shotgun beers in the lot.
I already said that earlier.
A lot of them.
I already said that too.
It's
You're going to
Red
shotgun
October.
beers with everybody. All of you, every single person. When you find us, your prize is you get to shotgun a beer with Jamie.
Yes.
So I don't know if it gets any better than that. Jamie,
Yes.
just make sure you're hydrating tonight so we're not carrying you onto the show today.
But we will be back tomorrow for Game 1 pregame show. Playoff baseball is back, and we're going to have a blast going through this together. For Renee, I'm Jamie Lynch, and for Tyler Zulli, our producer behind the non-existent glass there. Have a great Monday. Playoff baseball is almost here. Only one more sleep. We're very close. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast. After the show, if you miss us live on YouTube, the podcast is always there for you whenever you can listen. So we appreciate all your time. Go Phils.
Red
Have
October.
a great Monday, everyone, and we'll see you tomorrow for Phillies Game 1 pregame.
We all silly like the mayor.